everyone, it's Breea from Mythological Empath, where we like to talk about all things books. Today, we are going to be talking about Stellarlune. Oh my gosh, this was my most anticipated book of last year. This book came out in November, but I'd have to say I'm so excited to finally be making this video. I have been so busy with the holidays and everything else that I haven't been able to talk about this book on YouTube yet. I've talked about this a lot on Instagram just because it's a lot easier, but I have not been able to talk about this on YouTube, and I'm super excited. So I hope you're excited about this too. But yeah, so we are going to be doing this video in like an order. I'm going to be talking about characters first, then all the action that happened in the book, and then the plot. We are going to be discussing Stellarlune, so that means there's going to be spoilers ahead. There's going to be spoilers for the whole series. So if you haven't finished the series, and you don't like spoilers, because I know some people do, I like spoilers. This whole video is dangerous, so flee now and come back when you finish the series. But without further ado, let's get started. So let's talk about Sophie Foster herself, the Foss Boss. I absolutely loved her character in this book. I love how her snarky attitude came back. She kind of had a snarky attitude at the beginning of the series, but I don't know if it was more in her head. But she was super snarky at the beginning of the series, and she kind of lost that, and I'm glad she has it back. And I like that she's defending herself now. I mean, I know that it's not good to just constantly be snarky at people, but I think the level that she does is pretty good. Like, I didn't like it before when she didn't fight back for herself. My dog pregnant. She didn't fight back for herself, and it just never got resolved. Sometimes people would step in and say something, but most of the time people would just slam her, and it would just be like, you know? So I was really happy that she was fighting for herself in this book. And let's talk about like the elephant in the room. She discovered her feelings. The Great Foster Oblivion is over. I am literally so happy. I have no words. I mean, you can't read it back there, and I'll probably insert a picture, but I even have like a little bag that says, what is it? Oh, Team Foster Keith will always be better. I'm Team Foster Keith. I love it. I'm so excited that it's finally come about, you know what I mean? And just the process that Sophie went through when she was discovering her feelings. Of course, people helped her to discover her feelings, like obviously Ro, which we'll talk about her later, but yeah. But she literally, like Ro, Adeline, I mean Grady, like a lot of people that like obviously knew of Keith's feelings and most likely of what Sophie was feeling deep inside. Everyone was just like, and then she was like, yeah, she was just like, into the process that she went through when she was finally discovering it, it was like a mental breakdown she was having, where she was literally just sitting up in her room staring at a wall and kept telling herself, I need to stop thinking about this. I need to stop thinking about this, because it was like such a revelation that like, I feel like her, like even from book 2, especially from book 2, is that Keith became such a supporting friendship for her that she just didn't think of him in any other way, because I almost feel like it was almost because, first of all, I don't think she was ready to be in a relationship. I don't think she was ready to take that step until now. But also because Keith was so important to her as a friendship, as like a rock, that she didn't want to see him in any other way. If she saw him in any other way, it would have been way too difficult for her, because she didn't want to lose him in any way, because he was such a good friend. She needed him as a friend. So, but to see her finally thinking about it and all her thoughts about it, and how she said that like Keith would be like such an amazing boyfriend and all that stuff, like, obviously no one's perfect. No one's gonna be like the perfect boyfriend, but definitely there's certain people that just work really well together, and Keith and Sophie work so well together. Like, yeah. Like, and that will bring up the next character, which would be Ro. Ro is so amazing in this book, in my opinion, because I feel like in other books, like at first she had her own personality, but then in other books she kind of became like the voice of the Foster Keith like fandom. Like, she would say everything that Team Foster Keith people, shippers, would be thinking and be like, yes, Ro, yes, say it, this is what we're all thinking. But she kind of lost like who she was in other books. She was obviously still there, and she still had her attitude, she had her personality, but it just wasn't, you know, she couldn't be really Ro and be her own character. But definitely in this book, not only did we get to see that side, like the side of her that was like helping Sophie process this whole thing of, yes, Keith does like you, and you're gonna have to figure out how you feel about him, so you can let him know like where you want to stand, and you know, but also like her backstory about her, like the fact that she's a princess, and that there was a chance as a young child that she would have gotten kidnapped or hurt or even killed. That her father had to train her at a very young age on how to deal with situations like that, and just that whole thing about her just saying that how terrified she was to kill someone for the first time, and it just made her feel more like a person, and it made her so relatable, and I just love it. I love Ro's character anyway, but I just loved how they really delved deep into her character in this book. And yeah, we're all wondering where Ro went, and I actually am going to be releasing after this at some point. I don't know when, but I will keep you up to date. But I'm planning on releasing a theory video for I'm assuming what's going to be the last book, but we don't know, because Shannon said that she might be releasing a book 11, but we will see. But then that brings us to the next character, which is Keith Sanson himself. At first, I really didn't like Keith's character in this book. In a way where, like, I understood it, because even though people were like, no one can change Keith Sanson, he was changed in this book. And it's understandable why he was changed, because he was basically traumatized. I mean, he's been traumatized by a lot of things, but this was big. He was like invaded, you know, on a mental and physical level, where he was worried that he would actually not even be of the same mind. And obviously once he was still of the same mind, he was not of the same body. His whole physiology was changed in a way where like he had all these new powers and he didn't know how to control them, and he's such a gentle soul that he doesn't want to hurt anyone. So it's understandable. He was kind of like, and he actually says this, is that he was kind of numb, where like, and he didn't have his empathy. So his and Sophie's interactions, which are normally so, you know, smooth and they work so well together, weren't so much in this book because he didn't have his empathy. The biggest reason Sophie and Keith work, as a friendship, as a couple, and I'm sure they would work without his empathy, but the biggest reason that people ship them is because Sophie knew Keith at a mental level, and Keith knew Sophie at an emotional level, and he brought her out of her shell emotionally, and vice versa. So like, he was able to really stay close with Sophie because he was constantly able to know what she was feeling and was able to read her that way, where now he cannot, and he doesn't even know how to react to things she says. He just kind of stares at her and is like so confused and doesn't know what to say, and it definitely, like I said, it's understandable, but it kind of down the level of his character for me. It is in this book, and I'm sure he's gonna get his empathy back at some point or another, and it's gonna be awesome. But it just made me sad because I really liked Keith's character. Keith being an empath, like, was his character. Like, obviously there's more to him, but that was like the biggest aspect, what made Keith so unique, you know, in his character. So that's why I kind of, and I think also he needed to have lost his empathy though, because definitely, like, we're gonna be bringing it up, the kiss scene, it was so beautiful. Let me tell you, like, it was so beautiful. A lot of people didn't like it because it wasn't book tropey or anything, and people expected something big to happen, like them to figure it out or announce it during a battle or something. Like, people were saying all these crazy things, but I liked how it was. It was in a really cute romantic space for two young kids that are trying to figure their feelings out, trying to figure out what they're comfortable with in life, especially during this time period of uncertainty and war and, you know, fear and all that stuff, where they came to this quiet, secluded, calming place, where they, are you gonna bark at something? Oh yeah, she's gonna start barking. I might have to wait until she's done. Oh, you're gonna stop barking? Oh, you start barking? Oh, no, she's gonna bark more. Okay, sorry about that. She's back up there. Okay, so anyway, so yeah, they were in a really cute, nice, secluded area, and it was calming, it was romantic, and I definitely think, like a lot of other people are saying, is that Keith needed to have lost his empathy, or not needed to, but it was good that he lost his empathy for this specific moment, because it made them both vulnerable. Like, if he was just feeling what she was feeling, he'd basically just call her out on it, and then it wouldn't have been so sweet, it wouldn't have been as romantic. But they were both in a very vulnerable position, and, you know, they had their, like, discussion about how it, you know, it could be dangerous, like his mom would take advantage of it, and, you know, they're in a dangerous place where they could always lose each other and all that other stuff, and there's other things that can become issues if they changed their relationship. So they discussed all that, and then, you know, Sophie decided she didn't care, and it was just so sweet. And just the what he said was, what did he say? I posted this quote on my Instagram. What did he say? I can't feel what you're feeling, and it's terrifying. That was, like, so huge. Like, I don't know, like, it was so, like, the most vulnerable I think I've ever heard Keith before, and it was so needed to, like, show that they were, like, on the same level emotionally. Like, they were both very scared to change their relationship, but they were both ready for it at that point. Like, Sophie was finally ready for it, and I think Keith is he's definitely always liked Sophie. Like, he even says it during this moment, but I don't know if he was actually always ready to change their relationship from being friendship to dating. You know, I think that the fact that Sophie didn't, you know, realize it with the foster oblivion kind of was almost like a security blanket for him for a while. The only issue, and I think why he pushed so hard most of the time, was because he saw that there was other people pining for her or wanting to date her as well. So I think that made him nervous, and that's why he was so pushy, but I don't think he was always ready for a relationship. Honestly, I think he was more ready for a relationship around, what did I say? I think Nightfall. Like, by the end of Nightfall, I'm pretty sure that Keith was actually going to confess to Sophie at the end of the book that he was in love with her, because he came to her house, and he said that he he came and brought her a present, and he said that he was the present and that she had him all day. And I think that he was seriously going to confess that day, but then Sophie said that she had to go with Fitz to see Alvar to wake him up from this being sleeping on the supporting. But so that kind of interrupted it. But I honestly think that he was going to confess just then, and then by the next book, Fitzfee was becoming a major thing. And then there was a whole talk with the special extra scene that there was a talk with Alden, where Alden came and talked to Keith. I wonder if he actually came and I have to reread that scene, but I wonder if Alden actually came and talked to Keith right after the whole Alvar thing, because he thought that no, he did it right before Alvar's tribunal. But I don't know how far Alvar's tribunal was after the end of Nightfall. I'll have to look it up. I think it was a couple weeks. But, yeah, so I think they were both ready for it, and then they kissed and they were dating. So, yeah, I loved it. And then afterwards, there was some points where he was kind of flirty with her and he was teasing her and stuff like that, and they were kind of falling back into, you know, their normal thing, because they've been technically kind of almost dating the whole series with how flirty he was with her and how she would just take it and sometimes even flirt back. So it was kind of normal, but not really. He kind of was really just pushed into the background. Like even the scene with Prentice, like when Sophie and Fitz had to they had to go into Wiley's mind. Sophie and Fitz had to go into Wiley's mind because Tiergan and Prentice had found something in his mind, and like Fitz and Sophie were being cognates and doing that, but normally Keith would have been holding Sophie's hand as well, balancing her emotions and testing Wiley's emotions to try to keep him calm or something. I know he did that before with Prentice, but he wasn't, and he was just kind of in the background, and he spoke up a couple times and he said things to Sophie. There was a ton of interaction between the two of them afterwards, but like I guess not to what we're normally used to, and maybe it was intentional because we got so much Sophie Keith moments in this book that she kind of pushed him to the background to give some other characters some light. But I don't know, like I guess after a moment like that, you kind of just want Keith Foster. You want to see like, okay, how they're gonna interact now that they're dating and all that stuff. But it was good. It was good. I definitely think even the part where they were fighting Gisela and Gisela killed Vespera. I think even in that moment when Gisela said, "All right, who's next?" I wonder if Keith really almost was like, "Oh crap, I think, you know, Sophie will probably be next," because Sophie to Gisela is probably the biggest liability, because if Gisela can't control Sophie, she's already seen how much Sophie is capable of. And even though she always downplays Sophie, I think she definitely considers Sophie a threat, without a doubt. So honestly, I think that Sophie would have been the next one she took out. So I think that's really why Keith stepped up and was like, all right, I'll surrender, you know? So, all right. Yeah, so that's Keith. And moving on to Fitz, I think Fitz at the beginning of the series was okay. I don't know, to me, Fitz's character is what Fitz's character needs to be, and he's kind of like that boy that Sophie had like kind of a little girl crush on, and she wanted to date him, and she did date him, sort of, but it didn't really work out. So like his reactions, I think, were very justified though in this book. Most of the time he was kind of a jerk that has anger issues, but I think honestly the reason that Fitz was the way he was with Sophie is because they were just never on the same page. Like Sophie was thinking one way, Fitz was thinking the other, and Fitz just kept getting frustrated. They weren't thinking the same way, so he would lash out, and he does that in this book as well. But I mean, obviously he needs to get a handle on his anger. They probably all need therapy. But honestly, I think most of the things Fitz does were pretty justified. He was in a very vulnerable, very emotional state of mind because he literally got into a relationship with a girl he wanted to get into a relationship with for quite a bit. And then they broke up because they just weren't seeing eye to eye. But he still wanted to get together. He still wanted to kiss her. But she just didn't seem like she wanted him back, but she said she was kind of open to it, but just not yet. And then to have her, like, go into her mind and have her say, well, actually, I've just recently discovered I have feelings for your best friend, and I sort of kissed him, and we're sort of dating now, so sorry. You know, the way he reacted after, you know, like where he was just like, he stood up and he was just so angry and so hurt and just couldn't believe that she had done that to him and all that other stuff, and just things he said, I think they were honestly justified. I couldn't hate him for it. I would feel exactly the same way if I, you know, like someone and they literally went off and kissed someone else and started dating someone else. Even in Fitz, I don't think Fitz realizes that they're not working. I think Alden is pushing him into liking Sophie, because I think Alden, with the whole backers needing to be important sort of thing, Alden's pushing Fitz to be with Sophie because he sees how important Sophie is and wants his son to be with someone important. And that's okay. It's okay to want to be important, but I don't, for one, I didn't mean that I think what Alden's doing is okay. I don't think it's good to be pushing your kid into dating anyone. Let them make their own decisions. I mean, you obviously can have opinions, like if you feel like there's something you shouldn't be with someone, you can definitely voice that. And if you kind of like someone, you can voice it, but to the level Alden is he's being way too pushy. It's uncomfortable, honestly. But like, he's pushing Fitz to it. Fitz sees it. Fitz sees how incredible she is, and he wants to be important. He honestly wants to be more important than Sophie is, because he obviously sees how important she is, and I think that's who he wants to be. And honestly, the next best thing is to have her as a girlfriend, or eventually, you know, a wife. Like, he wants to be ranked at the same level, I guess, of importance as she is. And I think that's why he wants to be with her so badly, but I don't think he really knows it himself. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on Fitz. And so the next one, I'm going to just kind of put Tam and Lynn on the same, I'm going to group them together for this one because they had so much conflict in this book. Tam was amazing in this book, I'd have to say. The way he was just, how he finally has gotten out of his shell and finally found friends of his own is amazing to me. Like, because he was just so cut off and was so just wouldn't let anyone in, and the fact that he has developed in that way. And I think honestly, even though it was horrible, going to the Never Scene actually changed him in a good way. I'm sure it changed him in some bad ways too, like he probably can't sleep well at night now, but did he ever? But honestly, I think it really helped him realize that the world isn't black and white, and that, you know, so people, like he says in the book, that some people could see him as a villain for things that he's done, like him ranking his sister over everyone else's safety. People can see that as villainous, and then he said, but I'm not a villain, you know, I'm trying to do my best, try to do the most good I can do, but people do bad things for good reasons too, and you can't always prejudge them, and you've got to see who they actually are on the inside. And that was amazing development for him. So Tam got a ton of a development. Even his reaction with Keith, when they finally found Keith, was amazing. How him and Keith no longer snark at each other, how they kind of see each other as friends now. It seems like Keith and Tam are finally kind of finding a friendship, finding a way to communicate with each other because they're so similar to each other. And I think they're finally starting to understand that and understand each other and not see each other as a threat anymore. And then on the opposite end of that is Lynn, which Lynn, I feel like has had some regressing in her character where, like, she's never been like this. It was a total shock that Lynn had this inside her. Some people even kind of just felt it was out of character for her. And some people even thought like maybe they were doing that because they were gonna have Lynn die or something, and there would be like a revolution at the end or something, but that never happened. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't like Lynn's character in this book. I mean, it's understandable. Tam has changed, and that's probably making her super uncomfortable. Her and Tam have been together forever. They always had a really tight relationship, and I can understand that at that level, that whole like being friends with someone since elementary school, and then all of a sudden high school hits and you become two different people and your relationship just breaks and you can't communicate anymore, you don't agree anymore, and it's just devastating. And I think that's what Lynn's going through, is that she used to have like this connection with her twin brother where she just knew what he was thinking, knew what he was feeling, and that was safe for her. And now he is not thinking the way he used to think, he's not feeling the way he used to feel, and that's taking her security away and it's scaring her. And I think that's why she's reacting the way she is. I think that's why she's so out of character, and it makes sense in that perspective, but maybe not to the extreme that Lynn has kind of taken it. I don't know. I've always really loved Lynn's character, and she's kind of turned into a Stina, and I'm like, I don't like it, you know? So hopefully maybe in the next book, there will be some fixing of it, or not fixing, I don't know, because I know that sometimes relationships, you know, they don't get fixed, and that's realistic. But I guess maybe some like forgiving, and maybe some not as being as snarky and always being like every time Tam talks she says something about it, comments on it, like hopefully that gets fixed, because that's, I don't know, I don't like that. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on Lynn. And then I guess to bring up next is Stina. I feel like I love Stina's character development and legacy. Stina was becoming, even though she kept her personality, she kept being the mean girl, but like in legacy, she was finally starting to get along and not just like literally snarking at people every single time they open their mouth. And I was liking that development. I was like, oh my gosh, I actually starting to like Stina, you know, like, because everyone has different personalities, everyone has different thoughts and opinions, and that's okay as long as we all get along and not just down each other all the time. We only open our mouth when we really disagree. But like, and that's kind of how Stina became in Legacy. But then now she's had like a huge regression of her character development. It was like, just take all of her character development and Legacy and just throw it out the window, because she's not like that anymore. And I'm like, she went back to being like the really mean girl Stina from like book 1. And I'm like, I don't know, I was like really sad about that. I was like, why can't Lynn just, I mean, I didn't like Lynn regressing in this way, but it was more understandable where I was like, why can't Lynn just become the mean girl for this book and just maybe have Stina stay the way she did in Legacy? But maybe she was feeding off of Lynn, I don't know. But I also think that because of what Sophie did, and that the war is changing, it went from just like them defending to now they're fighting back, and that's a whole nother level of danger, a whole nother level of commitment. And I think Stina's honestly scared of it. Like, her father's a part of the Black Swan, but I almost feel like Stina almost doesn't want to be involved anymore. Like, before she was like, all right, I'm fine. She didn't really join the Black Swan, but she was fine with being part of Team Valiant. but I almost feel like she's kind of wants to step down in this book because she sees how real it's getting and it's terrifying to her. So I don't know, maybe once the next book she'll get her character development back. I don't know, but that's what I'm thinking. And I think it happened to a lot of the characters at the beginning, like where they were all really scared, but we shall see. But on to the next character, which is Jency. Jency, I'm just really, really happy we get Jency back. I love Jency's character in this book, how he was kind of just like that supporting character, but also the character that seems like he's going to be talentless. And I kind of hope she keeps him talentless. Like, it would be really cool if he got an ability, especially like, oh, what book was it? I don't remember what book it was in, but there was a part where they were doing like Exilium training at Foxfire, and Jency was able to make the ball explode just like Sophie was, and he was like, oh, does that mean I'm gonna manifest as a telepath? But at 50-50, like, I would be really cool if he got a really cool ability, but at the same time I almost hope he doesn't manifest, because then we kind of see him and then I think it's Rex both be talentless, and how they deal with it in a world where you're seen as lesser than if you're talentless. And it kind of will give the other characters more motivation to fix the system, seeing that it's not only unjust for everyone else, but also unjust to people that they're personally connected to. I think that will be a very big push to help them build a story. But I liked his character, and I liked that they brought back other characters from the first couple books. Like, they even brought back the whole thing where like Valen told Sophie that he liked her in that little note, and how Sophie's like, I honestly forgot about Valen. Like it's just funny just to hear all that stuff back up. And actually, speaking of which, one of my favorite characters from this book was Rainy. Rainy's character, or Rainy/Glimmer's character, was literally amazing in this book. I loved her so much. Like, I feel like if she was not in this book, and the whole Sophie and Fitz thing, Sophie and Keith thing was in this book would not have made it. Her character was just so bold. It was almost like that bit of Keith. Like, she's definitely not like Keith, but like just how blunt she is, and that she doesn't care what people think. And so she has had some sarcastic humor as well. She definitely doesn't have the same vibe as Keith, but the bits of Keith that I was missing the most, I feel like, shine through Rainy this book. And I loved it. I loved Rainy's character so much. I agreed with like most of the things she said, and how she really pushed the characters to actually do something. She's definitely a bit reckless, and I think Sophie is balancing her quite well, because even though people are saying that Sophie is really reckless in this book, Sophie is actually being really smart when she does make reckless moves, because when she's being reckless, it's not like she's going off on her own, and like how Keith was in the earlier books, and was just like, alright, I'm gonna go fight King Timitar, or, you know, like Sophie is being smart when she is being reckless, where she's bringing people along with her, she's making sure bodyguards there, she's making sure she could try to make it as safe as she possibly can, but she also understands that she's going to have to take risks, like higher risks, if she wants to get ahead of the game. She can't, they're playing way too much catch up, and they need to take bolder moves to be able to get ahead. So yeah, I loved Rainy's character, and I liked her I liked her design. I liked a lot of things about her. I love how they introduced her, and how her parents' tribunal was the tribunal they saw at the beginning of the book. I loved that. I loved how they tied a lot of things in Stellarlune to the first book, and even the first couple books. It was just awesome. I loved that. it was such, I gave such nostalgia, and it just shows how much planning Shannon Messenger puts into these books, and like how much thought, how much research. She does so much research that honestly I feel bad for her. I love it though. I very much appreciate it. I loved it. And then my next character, I'll bring up Forkle. I missed Forkle in the whole Black Swan in this book. Like, I felt like they just weren't present. Like they were obviously present. Like she had her weekly meetings with Forkle as Magne Leto, but like, I don't know, like the normal interaction she has with him just didn't happen in this book, and I kind of missed it. So really, that's all I could really talk about with Forkle. That not much happened with him or the Black Swan in this book. So hopefully we get to see a lot more of them in the next book. And then I'm going to talk about Morella and Finton sort of together, because I really liked Morella's character during this book. She was awesome. I liked how Jency brought up her ability to get people to talk like that. I thought that was awesome. Like, it really highlights what makes her special and what makes her like an asset to their team. And I loved her relationship with Finton right now. I think that hopefully Finton doesn't like turn around and stab us in the back. But I think that everything seems to be working out with him, and I almost feel like he definitely was trying to lead Morella to the answer about the Nox flares with the memory he showed her. So I think he really does care about her, and he definitely wants to help her in any way he can. But I don't know. I hope he doesn't end up betraying them in the end. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? And then for Finton, I loved Gardner Finton with the Nox flares. Was amazing. And just how, I don't know, meticulous he is. He's such a good villain. All of them are really good villains. I gotta do a villains episode or something. The villains are amazing. But yeah, that was my only little comment I had to say, is we had to bring up Gardner Finton. He was hilarious. And then the next one I was going to bring up is, I'll bring up Adeline. I really liked Adeline's character in this book. I loved her relationship with Sophie. It was kind of like the same thing I felt like with Ro, is that like where she was telling Sophie, you know, you can, you know, just tell me what you need to tell, or what you feel comfortable telling me. And like she tried to coax things out of Sophie, but not in a like demanding way. It was like, tell me if you need to tell me. I would really want you to tell me so I can help you, because I probably can really help you. And she really did help Sophie. And I really liked her Adeline's relationship with Keith. Oh my gosh, when Keith came back and she was just like, you know, just so supportive and so kind to him and just so understanding. It was so sweet. Like, to the point where Keith even said, like, wow, this is what a mother really is supposed to be like. Like, it was just so cute. Like, she was so supportive of him. Her and Grady were really supportive of Keith and like really helpful to him. I really would like to see Grady and Keith's training session. If we don't, like, because we're gonna be getting the paperback edition next year, I'm assuming, because that's usually how it works, is usually she puts in an extra chapter in those books in the paperback editions, so you'll want to buy the paperback editions. I'm really rooting for a chapter 42. Sorry about my dyslexia. Chapter 42 of Keeper Velocity's the kissing scene, but in Keith's POV, in Keith's perspective. I would love to see that in the paperback book. If she would be willing to give it to us, I would love to see Keith's perspective of that whole scene. But if not, I would love to see him and Keith's and Grady's training session, or one of the training sessions, or even like little bits of each of their training sessions. That would be a really cool thing to get as an extra chapter, to see what they actually did and to see if any of it was even helpful. Because I know Sophie asked him like after the first training session, Keith said it didn't really help, but it was only like the first training session, but he really didn't talk about it after that, and I'm really curious on how it's helped him, if it's helped him. And yeah, so I really liked Grady and Adeline's character this book. They did so well. And then moving on to my last character, which is Orelai. Oh my gosh, we got more of Orelai and Kenric's backstory, and their backstory, their love story was enemies to lovers. I did not see that coming. I loved that. That was like, I don't know, that was just a really cool development that they added, Shannon added in there. But it was just so cute. It was really, really cute. I loved that. We didn't really learn much from Kenric's memories, and I'll talk more about that in my theories video. But I love the little snippets we got about Orelai and Kenric. They were just so cute, and it just stabs you in the heart again that Kenric's not alive. Or is he? But yeah, I think that's all of the characters. I'm trying to think. Oh, how can I forget Dex? Dex was big in this book with his relationship with his brothers, and like the whole how devastated he is about that one of his brothers might be talentless, and the fact that they used him more. I feel like the fact that Keith wasn't in the beginning half of this book, Sophie kind of, instead of relying on Keith, she relied on Dex again. Like the first book's like this book brought us back to the first book. And it was just so nice to have him in there when she was talking to Orelai. It was just, he was so good. I liked his character. Even like the part where he was like, because Orelai said that most of the time telepaths and empaths get matched together because their abilities complement each other, and Dax was like, so that means that you would have probably got matched with, and then Sophie cut him off, but we all know he was gonna say Keith because it's like telepath empath, and I was like, that's hilarious. That's like, even like Dax ships it, like, I don't know, I love it. I love it so much. It's so cute. But yeah, I think that's all of the characters that I was going to talk about. Alright, so for the action scenes in Stellarlune, I thought it was absolutely amazing. So I think, like, and many others agree, there was a very lack of action in this book. Like, I feel like usually they have a little bit of action in the middle and then at the end. But in this book, there was a little bit of an action scene with them meeting with Vespera and the Guster, but it wasn't that big of a confrontation to like really consider it an action scene. So really the only big action scene was at the end, and it was very short-lived. They didn't even finish it. They cut it off. But what we did get to see was amazing. I absolutely loved it. I loved that Keith finally kind of pushed everyone, where he was like, he grabbed Sophie's dagger without her knowing and was ready. He was ready. He was going towards mom. He's like, I've had enough. I've had enough. And he was coming at her with the dagger. And I was like, oh dang, it's really happening. And then Sophie was transmitting to everyone and saying that you should leave. I'm going to fight. I'll be able to hold off. I should be able to hold off the troll babies things. But then everyone was like, we're not leaving. We're going to fight with you. And I would have to say, it was so beautiful. The moment that Fitz was like, I'm going to grab Sandor's sword, and Fitz grabbed Sandor's sword, I was like, yes. That, I don't know, for some reason that part to me, so like I was pretty equal probably to the scene where Keith grabbed a dagger and was coming at his mom, but like the fact that Fitz got Sandor's sword, like that giant hulking sword, as a telepath, like I don't know, for some reason it was just glorious to me. I loved that scene. It was so epic to me. Like, I could just picture this guy just like grabbing this giant sword and then just coming at these troll mutant babies. The scene just sounded so epic to me. I don't really know. I mean, Morella probably came at them with flames, or even like if she didn't burn them, she probably just kept them at a distance. I don't know what Maruka did. Did she just put a shield over them to just trap them? I mean, she can't I don't think she could suffocate them because the wind blows through her. I don't know what Maruka did, to be honest, but I think what everyone else did was amazing. Like, Sophie was like zapping them all with her inflicting, and then Fitz. I think that the sword thing with Fitz, it's because I think that was the perfect weapon for him, with how he's not afraid to slice and dice people at this point. I just think that the sword was like the perfect weapon for Fitz, and for some reason that was just glorious to me. And I really, really hope the last book, the last battle scene that we get is just as epic. I mean, I want it to be more epic than that, but like to that level of Fitz grabbing that Sandor sword. Like, I want it to be like, I want to see Counselor Bronte zapping people too. I want to see people are reading about people using their abilities to kick some actual butt, because that happened in Legacy, but we missed it. Sophie was in the wrong room. Sophie was in the room where everyone was tied up, and then in the other, like the main marketplace, everyone was kicking butt. We missed Counselor Bronte zapping people. Like, that's what I wanted to see. But yeah, so yeah, I really hope we get that in the last book, and the fact that we got a little bit of it, I'm trying to say, like a little snippet of it in this book, it makes me excited for that we might actually get it. And even like Grady, I want to see Grady. Now, I don't know what I want to see Grady do, but I want to see Grady do something epic. I can't say exactly what I want him to do, but I want to see him doing something epic. Yeah, he's gonna do something epic. He's gotta do something epic with his mesmering. But yeah, so I love the action scene. And then moving on to plot, there wasn't much of a plot here. Like, there was definitely things driving the characters, but I feel like most of the book was just trying to like find things, and nothing really drove I mean, the things drove them forward. There was things like, obviously, Sophie trying to figure out Stellarlune for Keith. There was things that were driving people forward, but I feel like the plot wasn't as much for this book. Like, where most of the books we get action, plot, and character development. Character development is always huge in Shannon's books, and it was very huge in this book. This book was mainly all character development. And then the action and plot were kind of pushed to the side, I feel like, a little bit in this book, and that's why I think a lot of people were disappointed with this book, is because the action and plot were pushed to the side a lot. But for the little snippets of plot and little bit snippets of action that we did get, I was very happy with. And I think the biggest reason that that this book was the way it was because Shannon was writing this with a newborn baby. And we're just gonna have to just kind of accept that, and that hope that her last book, or at least the next book, if the next book is not the last book, is a little bit better, because she probably, hopefully, will be dealing with a little bit less, with a little bit of an older baby, depending, I guess, when they expect her to have the next book done. But yeah, so I think that's really all I've got to say. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. It really helps support me and helps me to create more videos like this. And when you leave a comment down below, just try to keep it not negative. Like obviously tell me your true opinion if you've got opinions about the way I do things, if there's something you don't like that I do. Just try not to be too mean or whatever. I like to try to keep my comment section a positive space. But also, you could also comment on emoji showing how you feel, or an emoji that kind of represents something that you like of Keeper of the Lost Cities, just to give me a little bit of support. I love reading comments, and I love doing videos. So I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and stay tuned. I'm going to be coming out with my video on my theories very soon, and I'm really excited for that video. So stay tuned for that, and Mythological Impact out. This is not sponsored, but if you are curious about where I got my little tote bag, then I'll insert a picture of it if I haven't earlier, or I'll just insert a picture of this little bag here, and I also have this little cup here. I got these for Christmas from Society 6. I don't know if you can see Society 6 up there. I got these from Society 6, and I'm thinking about creating a video about all the products I got from Society 6 for Christmas. They're all Keeper themed, so let me know if you're interested in a video about these products and about what I thought about the quality of Society 6. And